Alright, so it's 6 a.m. here, and well, first of all, I'm Finn. I've been an artist for about 8 years, 9 years, something like that. And well, in this video, I'm going to share some thoughts about how you can make a better Steam Capsule artwork that can be useful if you are an artist that is starting out, and also if you are an indie dev that usually do stuff by yourself. So I'm recording this in my phone because I thought the quality of my microphone was shit. So I'm sort of redoing stuff without any script. I sort of got everything in my head and I really want to scrap everything I did, like a 40-minute video on my computer recording and reading a script. I didn't like it, so let's begin the video with that sentiment of redoing everything you did, because that can be quite common. It's actually almost part of the whole process. At some point you may encounter things that are not fixable and you should redo it. Redoing something demands you to do something to begin with, like a first sketch. So how do you get there? How do you prepare yourself to make the first step, which is sketching an idea? And if you're an artist, you are probably going to deal with clients, and you should take into consideration their ideas first. You should talk to them, see what their ideas are, see what the game is all about, and then you should sketch the things you discussed with the dev. Alright, so what I literally do is, after we chat for a bunch of minutes, I gather all the information on print screens. I took screenshots from text, from the game itself, from other references, from other Steam capsules the client likes. For an artist, that would be something like a mood board or a reference sheet or something like that. But the key here, when dealing with clients, is to ask a bunch of questions, really nail down what the game is all about. You gotta have a very good idea about the game, about how it looks, how it feels, and after that, things will come to your mind, like how to portray that. That can be obvious, but sometimes it's not that obvious. So I was editing the video and, there's some unanswered questions here. I was about to say something on this specific moment, but I thought about waiting for the next day and waking up at 6 a.m. to continue the video, but I'm not gonna do that. So I'm just gonna close the window first because it's fucking raining. So yeah, I was about to say that it's not that obvious because some games have very specific gameplays or even non-conventional designs and weird stuff, and it's hard to portray that sort of thing. So here's some examples. Dear Edmund and Rat Race Ritual, they are games that you can do lots of stuff. It's kind of hard to find stuff to sum it up into a single artwork that tells you something about the game. So in the case of Dear Edmund, you sort of don't have this giant hand picking the player like a big brother, like in a George Orwell book. But that fits the vibes of the game. Same deal with the Rat Race Ritual. You don't really run in a mouse wheel like that. This whole artwork is a symbolic or metaphorical way to portray the game. This is one of the hardest one because it's kind of easy to imagine a platformer where you kill monsters with spells as a mage. It's kind of obvious, but when you're dealing with more different types of games, you should brainstorm stuff that are more metaphorical. And here's a baby. So yeah, we are still in the first stages of making an artwork for Steam, so there's some things to consider. Still in the topic of sizes, my process is I grab the biggest one, which is the library hero, and I do the main artwork inside that size, and then I crop the other smaller ones out of that big one. I mean, of course, if you follow my structure of doing things, you will focus on a specific portion of the artwork, like this, just a tiny bit, and then the rest of it you should fill in with stuff. So I often think about cool things to add. If it's a game that you have hordes of enemies, the answer is obvious. I would fill in this area with a horde of enemies, but sometimes that can be too much to do, and I often do like a big character in the foreground to cover stuff pretty much. But it should also be clever and visually nice, so it's not just to fill the area, but it's also to give an impression that something cool is going on. But yeah, you should fill in this whole area, but focus on a portion, which is the portion you're going to grab pretty much all the other sizes. This final portion here is not really useful for you. It's just to be pretty for marketing purposes, or just when the game is live and people can play it. That's how I think about it. With that in mind, when you're going to sketch it, you should have the title of the game and sort of a basic idea of how it should look like in the final logo or title design. That's important, and that's kind of hard to actually see in your head or really to have any ideas, because it's a lot to, I mean, it's really hard to deal with an artwork and logo slash title design at the same time, because they are different sciences. It's really hard, but I think it's important to consider it. It's important because imagine if you make a very good artwork and the title is kind of messy and it covers a bit of the artwork, and that's not ideal. That's why it's great to think about the logo at first and how it interacts with the artwork. The way I see it, coming from a illustration background that doesn't deal with logos and titles, I think this is a intruder in the artwork. You should leave it in a blank area because you should see it, but it should not bother the artwork. Of course, in the case of a Steam page, of a Steam artwork, the logo is important. Of course, it's the name of the thing, but it should not really fight with the artwork. The artwork should help you to visualize the logo better. Things should not fight each other. You should also place it in the sketch with a placeholder font or something, just to see, the workable area. And also talk with the client, see what they think about what sort of composition they want to do. There's all sorts of cliche compositions out there, which pretty much is kind of impossible to run from. You're going to pick some composition that is already in use. There are no new compositions. I think you can be bold and do something very new somehow if you're a genius. I would recommend that, but sometimes you gotta play safe. You really gotta think about what area in the artwork the logo will be, and then you can build the artwork around it. So yeah, with that said, here's some sketches of an artwork with logos on it, and then the final thing, so you can see how much it improves, how much it changes. But now I should talk about the logo and the title, which is a little bit different because it has to do with design, which is a different science, really. And it's something that I'm not that good with. I've been practicing, of course, but the way I do it, it's simple like this. I try to find cool fonts that sort of encapsulates the game a little bit. And I stress on a little bit because I build on top of it. There always has to be something about it, like an object or a symbol or something to complement the logo. So here's an example with Blood Thief. There's this dagger as the T letter. There's some flavorful stuff in Hazard Pay, stuff that has to do with chemicals and melting people. There's this coal in Private Mining Company. You can find ways to replace the letters. You can find cool dynamic things. It's really important to spend some time only on the logo, of course. Also, spend some time trying to think about the spice of the logo, something that can really pop the logo, maybe symbols, maybe things that will interact with the letters, grunginess, textures. Also rearrange the words, which is something you should do while sketching as well. Because imagine if this is a big phrase, it's hard to fit in a Steam capsule. The title should be a separate entity in the artwork. It should not be bothered, and it should cover a very nice piece of the image. So in this example here, you can see how I try to make things compact, so it fits in a square. Sometimes the game doesn't have a phrase on it. Sometimes it's just a big ass word that you cannot really separate. When you have a big word that cannot be separated, like some examples I'm showing here, you should be placing it in the top or in the middle or in the bottom. When you put it on the sides, it's kind of hard because you should fill in the up and down area so it doesn't really feel blank. Still in the topic of sketching, I'm going to try to not be very technical here. In my opinion, you should study and focus on composition principles. That means you should think about where to put stuff, pretty much. Which sounds obvious, but it's hard to do. The decision of putting something in the middle or on the right side or the left side. It can be subjective, of course, but some stuff can be universal, like the flow of things, like composition tips and tricks, making a character with a sword that is pointing towards something. This is a composition trick which makes you intuitively look where the pointy thing is pointing. You can do that with sharp rocks, you can do that with buildings. It's an infinite topic to talk about. Sum it up is just art fundamentals in general, but try to focus on composition. That will be very helpful. Yeah, composition is king, but also there's another king, which is contrast. You should nail down the contrast of your sketch. On the first minutes of sketching, I really recommend you to sketch in black and white and try to be very distinct between planes. Think about the main focus of the artwork, the secondary focus, and the background. Stuff that just gonna be far away so you can blur the shit out of it. As an example, here's an artwork that is kind of simple. There's a group of characters, and then there's a background of something happening. And you can notice in terms of contrast, the characters are darker than the background. You should find ways to differentiate those values because contrast also guides your vision towards things. It also can create harmony together with composition, and it's something you should do in conjunction. And it's hard, man. It comes with time, of course, but again, you can study this shit. You can think about some rules to follow. Pure black and pure white should be only used on specific places because these colors are very aggressive. Not colors, I'm talking about tones actually and values. Those values are very aggressive, and if something is completely black or completely white, it will drag your attention. So it's better to leave that to the logo and powers and things in the artwork that should help out the visibility of everything. So here's an example. A bunch of dark characters shooting, and I use a bunch of fog and a bunch of lights to promote those characters. Going back to tips and actual things that I use every single time is the use of rim lights. I use that very often to improve the overall visibility of the thing I'm working on. And you can see a bunch of examples here like fire, fog. I use a lot of fog. Fog is great. You should use fog, which, in Photoshop terms is the gradient tool. Smoke, environmental stuff. In the topic of contrast, maybe you're making a managing game, so you don't really need a character as a focus. That sounds obvious, right? Building games won't really focus on characters, but of course you can, because characters are more appealing. This is not a straightforward science, it's subjective. Let's pick a game as an example. Crusader Kings. That game is about managing a kingdom, and there's a character in the artwork, right? And also the logo is black, which is something that it's not that common, I would say. Most logos and titles are white, but yeah, here's an exception for you. What you should do in terms of composition, in terms of colors and contrast, is to try to think about an advantage, how you can improve what's already there, or maybe how you can really stand out, which is a gamble, really. You may think about something really special and really different that can be sometimes weird to people. So that's why it's a gamble to be really groundbreaking or bold in decisions like that. You should take a print screen from the search bar of, let's say, zombie games, and then you put your sketch in there, you put your final artwork in there, and see how it stands out. And also analyze what people around you are doing, and then you will notice a pattern in colors, you notice a pattern in composition and fonts, and you can use that as a tool. This information can be used to your advantage in terms of like how you can either use a cliche and improve on it, or how you can avoid doing this at all and standing out. But that can be weird. That can be something that doesn't really belong among those zombie games if you use like a pink color. But again, it's subjective, man. You should test it out. This is all I got for now in terms of art stuff. We can talk about colors. So I would say if you have a very solid contrast going on and a very solid value composition, you should be fine with whatever color you pick. Of course, it will look bad if you don't really pay attention to colors, but contrast wise, the image should work. Okay, so I think I covered pretty much everything fundamental. Now I'm going to actually tell you some hacks or tips and tricks that I use. The first one is the ability to flip the canvas. Flipping the canvas is ideal if you want to see things from another angle. You can spot the differences, in angles. You can spot things that are not really matching. You can see weird stuff and fix it, and then you unflip it. This is very useful. The second most useful thing that I use all the time is a shortcut to make things black and white. Yeah, at first I will work in black and white. I will separate the planes, I will separate the colors, I will separate the values, trying to make a very good contrast. But then, after I put some colors on it, I can mess it up. I can really destroy all the values I've been building because I'm a moron. After a certain point, it's very hard to see stuff in terms of contrast because there are colors in your face. That's why I use a shortcut in Photoshop to make things black and white, so I can clearly see what the hell I'm doing in terms of contrast. So this is how you set up. Here's a quick video. But if you're fucking lazy, you can put a color layer, either black or white, on top of everything. And then you just click the I button, you lazy son of a... So the last thing I would do is to improve the sharpness of the image. What I found is, again, that can be subjective, but when I work on a big one, on the Library Hero artwork, it often lacks a bit of contrast when you're looking at it from a distance. So sharpening the pixels seems to be helpful to me, and I like the result, and I think it creates a little bit more contrast on the small one, especially when you place it on the search bar in Steam. You can really see the difference, like a before and after. Here's a quick test so you can see what I'm talking about. There's also something very important that I want to share, mostly for artists, of course, which is how you present your artwork, how you present your Steam capsules, actually. This is how I do it. This is how it is in my portfolio. It's a image with the major sizes. It shows people that I can do pretty much all sizes, and it can also show people that I can frame stuff in a nice way. So this is what you should be doing when it comes to presenting your artwork. Another very important tip is to show clients what is your jam, what is the thing you are good at. I've done some cute artwork in the past for games, which is something I don't really post. You should have a common theme, and you should present the good stuff you've been doing. You're not going to see cute stuff in my portfolio. You're not going to see anime. You're not going to see a game about dressing dolls, because this is not something I do. Even if I do, it feels weird among all these horrible, dark, and gritty games that you melt people, that you kill people, that sort of thing. Yeah, focus on the thing you like. I know you probably skipped this last section of the video. I would also, so no shaming that, but it's very straightforward. You should search for clients on Reddit or in any social media really, but I mostly use Reddit. I should say this is based on luck. I send 100 chat inboxes and I get like 2 responses. I mean, the universe sometimes is going to waste your time and make you feel miserable by giving you luck when you're not skilled enough. That's why you should build your skills in the darkness. It's like training for a whole year and not seeing your parents, not seeing your family. And then in Christmas, you're going to, open the door and you are huge. And people will be like, what the hell? What have you been doing, man? You should be doing that in the shadows. You should be working out, art-wise and physically if you can. And then you are preparing yourself. You should be prepared to look. You should be skilled enough so when the universe puts some luck in your way, you can use it. That's why it's important to practice and to be good at what you do. It's 50% luck and 50% skills. What I do specifically is basically 2 things. I comment on hiring posts that has to do with the thing I do, like a post asking for a dark, gritty game. Something very important that you should do is you should not look like a bot. Don't deal with clients as if they were a lawyer or someone very, very important. You just talk normally as if it was just another dude in the internet, and then you send the link to your portfolio. Say things about the game, say things that can show people that you're not a bot and you understand the request. Things like, dude, I love the style of the game, I think it's right up my alley. Dude, I love that stuff, it reminds me of Elden Ring, whatever. Just write stuff as a human. The second thing I do is sort of passive. Applying on comments is a bit more active work. You should spend like an hour or 2 scouting, gathering posts on the internet, like Reddit most mostly. Game Dev Classifieds is a great place. Yeah, this is active. The passive thing you should do is to post on those subreddits presenting your work. You do a for hire post, which is kind of obvious to most artists that, you know, are freelancers. But when you're posting it, you should be posting the best ones, and if you have some testimonies, you know, what I often do is like I ask clients to comment on my Reddit posts so I can have a real game dev comment in my post, so I can show people that, you know, I'm not a scammer and I do a good job. Whenever you feel like you can ask this for a dev, just do it, and then you save this post to link in the comments, like, here's my portfolio, here's my pricing, and here's some testimonies. People will click that and check out if you're legit. So yeah, that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching, by the way. This is the first time I'm doing something like this. Maybe I'll do more. Maybe this is the only video of this kind I will ever make. So if you're indie dev looking for an artwork for your game, I'm open for commissions, and I'm glad to give you feedback on existing artworks for a very small amount of gold coins, mostly on Discord, of course. So here's my Discord. Feel free to add me, and you know, we can chat in there. But yeah, that's it for now.